Hi everyone, Andy here from Suite Additions. For this in-depth video, I would like to discuss the process involved with converting an existing illegal suite or finished basement that may be used as an additional family room, man cave, or workshop to a fully functional legal second suite. Now, these types of projects comprise a big portion of our work and is a great opportunity for many homeowners and investors to potentially save quite a bit of money, time, and effort if they can utilize a lot of the existing finishes. Obviously, whether you can keep most or all of the existing finishes will depend heavily on the quality of the finishes, the age, and material types. So we're going to dive right into these details for this video. And we really get into the details of this type of conversion in our training program, which we'll be launching again this fall. Before we get started, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this video with someone you think might be interested in this. Okay, so right now we're in the basement of one of our projects. As you can see, it's a nicely finished space with drywall ceilings and exterior walls, and this is the perfect family room for the previous people that lived here. Now, the majority of our second suite conversion projects are in unfinished basements or ones where we'll be essentially gutting everything down to the foundation wall. And we cover this in quite a bit of detail in some of our other videos. The reality is that many homes, including ones that you already own or ones that you're looking to purchase, already have existing finished basements that have second suites that may not be legal. Or it's a finished space with a family room or a recreational room. And often they have been completed very nicely and professionally, just like this basement here. It would be unreasonable to say that all of these would have to be ripped apart and started new. So it really depends on the condition of the space. And in our experience, most municipalities have also taken a very reasonable approach to this, allowing existing finished spaces to be easily convertible to legal second suites as long as we're able to meet the fire safety requirements, emergency egress, and a host of other building code items. They have allowed us to utilize a portion of the building code that is a little bit less restrictive, which allows us to treat these conversions as renovations rather than new construction. So know that just because it's an existing space or unit, it doesn't mean that you're exempt from the rules. You still need to comply with the building code, although some of those rules may be relaxed. In Ontario, this is Part 11 of the building code. In other cases, however, it may not make sense to keep what's there. We're going to get into some of these details in a bit, but if the basement looks like it was party central in the 1970s, then you most likely will have to get rid of it and start new. Or it was completed as a handyman special with a host of poor finishes, shoddy, unlicensed electrical work, and God forbid, mold. So please know that not every existing finished basement is worth saving. The real big advantages of converting an existing finished space is the fact that you might be able to save quite a bit of money. Additionally, the time savings means that you can get the unit occupied faster and collecting rent sooner. The other advantage is that a house with a nicely finished space, even though it's going to cost more than one with an unfinished or poorly finished space, is that those extra costs can be rolled right into your mortgage. Whereas if you had to do everything from scratch, you'll have to pay for it all out of your own pocket, and perhaps once it's completed, then you can get it refinanced. Now, there's plenty of advantages to converting existing finished space, but it's never going to be as good as doing everything brand new. There's also going to be risk. If things are already completed, you will never be able to fully know what's hidden behind those walls and ceilings. Even if you cut holes out to do sample checks, you won't be 100% sure. This is especially true when it comes to things like electrical, plumbing, and insulation. These are the trade-offs that you, your architect or designer, and contractor can decide on together. Every property is different and every situation will be unique. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's now get into some of the nitty-gritty details as we like to do in these videos. Now, we're going to start with existing wall finishes and ceiling finishes. Then we'll get into existing electrical, plumbing, and mechanical systems. And we'll wrap things up by going over room layout and windows. So with existing wall finishes, it's important to know if there's any insulation behind the walls. For this, you'll likely need to cut out some of the wall finishes to see what's behind there. The insulation requirements nowadays are quite high at R20, but if it's existing at a lower level, most municipalities will allow you to leave it as is. But if you're going to be removing the wall finishes, you'll need to bring it to today's insulation standards. Generally speaking, if the walls are drywall, there's a better chance that there is some existing insulation compared to older wood panel wall finishes. Next is the ceiling. This is a very important aspect of your second suite because this is the majority of the fire separation between your basement second suite and your main unit. Now, if you have old suspended or acoustic tile ceilings, that needs to be replaced for sure. You're going to have to start fresh with fire and sound insulation, metal resilient channels, and fire rated drywall. Now, if you have existing drywall ceilings, the approach can be very different. In some cases, the existing ceiling already has a fire rated drywall. This is rare, but might be possible if the previous installer had intentions of a legal suite in the future. In most cases, however, it's going to be a standard half-inch drywall. What can and should be done will depend on the code interpretation of your municipality and how good you want your final product to be. In some cases, you will be allowed to leave what's existing and the city will treat that as a minimum 15-minute fire separation, as long as you have smoke alarms that are interconnected between both units. In other cases, you will need to throw an additional layer of fire-rated drywall underneath the existing drywall. However, keep in mind that this doesn't provide the necessary sound separation required by code. Depending on the city, you may be required to add insulation, which means the ceiling needs to be redone. Or it's something that you might want to do anyways to improve the sound separation between the units. So discuss these options with your architect or designer. So next we're going to talk about the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical systems. So let's go to a different part of the basement. Okay, so when it comes to the electrical system, this is something that is always a big question mark on existing conversion projects. Was the work completed by a licensed electrician or a handyman? It's hard to say for sure, so you'll probably need to have it checked out by an electrician. Although the city won't be inspecting the electrical system, they may ask you to have a certificate by the Electrical Safety Authority indicating that the system is safe. Now, the good news is that even if you had to replace the electrical system, you don't necessarily have to rip out all of the finishes. Your electrician may be able to fish new wiring behind the existing walls and ceilings. As part of the electrical system, of course, are light fixtures. You are required to have at least one light fixture per room, and often people like to install pot lights or recessed lighting. Generally, this may be a concern because pot lights penetrate the fire separation, and you need to ensure that you have proper protection above each individual light, which can be a very expensive process. I usually recommend against having pot lights in basement second suites. Next, let's talk about the plumbing and drain systems. Obviously, most of this will be hidden in a finished space. If you have existing bathrooms, kitchens, and laundry facilities, most of the plumbing and drains will not be visible. In our experience, most cities are not going to ask you to rip out the fixtures in order to inspect the plumbing system. This can be challenging, especially regarding drain systems that are underground. There's really no way to check the full integrity of the system if it's closed up. The next best thing you can do is run some tests. You should do a camera scope of the main drain pipe, run the water in all fixtures and faucets to ensure that it's draining properly. And of course, check to make sure that you have adequate water supply and pressure while running several fixtures at the same time in both units. If you have a service line that's coming into the house that's a ½ inch, you most likely will need to get it upgraded to 3/4 of an inch. The city inspectors might run some of these tests themselves and might ask you to show them footage of the camera scope. Make sure to provide them footage of your property and not someone else's. Next is the heating system. If you have a forced air furnace like this one here, most of the ducts will be covered up. If you have a boiler unit, most of the radiator pipes will be covered up. The great news is that when you are converting a single family home to 2 units, the building code will allow you to keep it as such without adding a new heating system. You can add a new system if you want to though. There will be safety provisions that you need to implement to ensure that fire safety is addressed. For example, installing in-duct smoke detectors or fire dampers at the heat registers. If you need to change the floor configuration or add or remove rooms for your second suite, you'll most likely need to open up some of the system to extend the needed ducts or pipes to the space requiring the heat. In some cases, you might want to redirect some ductwork to help with sound separation between the units. Again, have this discussion with your designer and contractor to determine if any additional work will be required. Of course, we need to ensure that you have adequate floor space for all the required rooms of the second suite. Again, just because it's existing, it doesn't mean that the building code doesn't apply. We need to ensure that there is adequate floor space for all the spaces such as the living room, dining room, kitchen, and bathrooms. Your existing space may not have your desired arrangement needed for your second suite. You may need to move, add, or remove walls to have the room configurations that meet the building code and the functional requirements of your suite. Now, we recommend that you check out the PDF document, Adding a Second Unit in an Existing House, issued by the Government of Ontario. This is a handy document that actually outlines room size requirements and a bunch of other items. The last item we'll cover is windows. We stated before that windows are used for natural ventilation, emergency egress, and natural lighting. In most situations, existing non-conforming suites or finished basements will unlikely have enough windows to satisfy all three of those requirements. In almost all cases, we need to add or enlarge existing windows to meet these requirements. And sometimes there's additional structural work that needs to be done. So we're going to end it here. In summary, we highlighted a number of items that can affect the conversion of existing finished spaces. This includes existing wall and ceiling finishes, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical systems, as well as floor space and window requirements. Obviously, there are numerous other aspects we didn't cover, including separate entrances, smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, and laundry facilities, just to name a few. Of course, you need to go through everything in detail when you're working with a designer and contractor. And of course, we dive deeper into this topic in our Second Suite's Profit Formula comprehensive training program. So what are your thoughts? Have you ever converted an existing finished basement or a legal suite, or planning to do one in the near future? Are there aspects of converting an existing unit that you wanted to hear more about? Did I miss anything important? So please share your thoughts and comments below, and we'll definitely get back to you. So we hope this video was helpful. Please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for watching this. I'm Andy from Suite Additions, and all the best to your success. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to learn more about investing in housing densification and how you can get involved, hit that subscribe button. I put together a beginner's guide and also a handy 8-point checklist that covers everything you need to know about adding a legal second suite. We cover important bylaw and building code requirements for cities in Ontario and all the design considerations you need to make to successfully complete your project. You can download that through the link in the description below. Until next time, to your success.